Welcome back, and in this tutorial I'm going to talk about detection and prevention against computer crime. Computer crime is one of the problems that majority in the modern world are really facing, and therefore there is need for us to educate everybody, whether you are going to your workplace. Okay, you need to be informed of how you can detect or how can you be able to protect yourself against computer crimes, because we mentioned in my previous tutorial forms of computer crimes, and then you can be able to see how you can be able to part with your information, how you can be able to lose money in the process, how can you be able to lose your business information in the process. So there is need for us to have some kind of mechanism to detect when this issue we just want to happen. Now, the first thing to look at, the first thing to help you, some of the measures to put in place is what we call audit trails. So when you talk about audit trail, basically this is a careful study of the information system by experts in order to establish all the weaknesses in the system that could lead to security threats or act as a weak access point for criminals. Yeah. So you are going to do what we call a detailed study of the information system, basically to identify the weaknesses in that system. Yeah. Then you can be able to know that these are some of the security threats that might take place into my system, and then you can be able to deal with it squarely. Now, and when you're talking about the audit trail, these are some of the main areas, or these are some questions that must be answered during the audit trail. The first one is is the information system meeting all the design objectives as originally intended? If this system is meant to do billing, is it doing the specific objectives that it was developed on? If in case it is extending its mandate, then you can be able to know of how you can be able to deal with that issue. Yeah. So make sure that the information system that is developed is meeting the objective that was created for. Number two question that must be answered during the process of audit trail is that, have all the security measures been put in place to reduce risks of computer crimes? So is that system able to create the password? Okay. Is that system able to authenticate the password? Is that system able to do what we call the two authentication? Yeah, whereby the first message is sent to your phone, and also you'll be notified in case somebody wants to access your account. So is it able to do that kind of authentication, double authentication? Is it possible? And if it was developed with those security measures, is it able to implement them, or is it not able to do that? So by so doing, you'll be able to know where you can be able to do that. Then we can go to, are the computers secured in physical restricted areas? So you should be able to check where the environment where the computers are kept, is it protected? Is it having the correct security measures around it? And so on and so forth. So you can talk of, is there a backup of data for the system that can ensure continuity of service in case something happens? So do you have a backup of data somewhere else within the organization or outside the organization, so that in case the data is lost, can we ensure that we can continue with our operation without any problem? Then you can also say that what real risk faces the system at present or in the future. Okay. Now talking of, maybe we have got a certain virus that has come in the market. Can it really affect this particular system? Or this system has been, maybe can suffer from some kind of security threats in future? Which are these threats, and how can you be able to deal with it? So these are some of the questions that you can be able to ask yourself, and in the process you can be able to know that here, this is where the weakness is, and this is where the strength is, and you can be able to deal with the weaknesses even before they occur, okay, in your system. So that is some of the things you can be able to handle. Number two, we talk about data encryption as one of the way to detect and prevent computer crimes. So how does data encryption help us to do that? So data being transmitted over the network faces the danger of being tapped, as you have seen, through tapping, through hacking, through whatever means, or through other forms of cyber crimes. So to protect this data, it is mixed up in form of that the only people who can be able to understand the message being sent from one point to another is the sender and the receiver. So you mix up the message to a form that only the two people can be able to understand what is being communicated. Now, how do you do that? You do this through what we call data encryption. So the message to be encrypted is called the plain text. So if I'm sending the message to a person, that message is what we call the plain text. After the message has undergone encryption, we call it a ciphertext. Yeah. So message, a plain text together with the encryption key, we call it what? A ciphertext. So ciphertext is the text that is going to be sent through the network. After the recipient receives the ciphertext, is supposed to apply the encryption key so that to decrypt the message and be able to do what? To read the message. Okay. So that encryption key should be shared. That encryption key should be shared to the receiver, so that when you receive the message, he uses that decryption key. You can be able to use the decryption key, not the encryption key. You can be able to use the decryption key so that you can be able to obtain, the original plain text. Okay. So we have studied the plain text. So that plain text is supposed to be transmitted from point A to point B, or from person A to person B. But in order for it to go safely from person A to person B through the network, we are supposed to apply what we call data encryption. Now, data encryption, we have said that in this case, you take the plain text plus the encryption key, you get what we call the ciphertext. Now, that ciphertext is supposed to be transmitted through the network. Once it has been received on the receiver's end, it's supposed to have what we call the decryption key. Now, the decryption key is a reverse algorithm that is enabling you to get the original plain text that has been sent by the sender. Yeah. So through this mechanism, you can be able to have, maybe you can be able to control a little, you can be able to control the computer crimes that might occur in the process of transmission. Going further, there is a diagram here to explain that. I've talked about for example, this person wants to send the word Black Panther. Now, this is the encryption key for the Black Panther. So when you do this, when you take the original, take the plain text, then you combine with it to get you get what you call the ciphertext. So this is the ciphertext being transmitted via the network. On the other end, we have what you call the decryption key. So this is our decryption key here, and then we have what we call the plain text that has just been generated. Another mechanism for you to control computer crimes is through what we call the log files. So a log file basically is a special system file that keep records of events on the use of the computer and the resources of information system. Okay, you got the Department of Defense. They have got very critical, sensitive files. Now, in this case, if you log into any computer in that network, that log file or that set of events that you took, or some of the activities that you did on that computer, it is going to be recorded. And why do they record? Because they want to check what are some of the operations you completed or you have executed on that computer. Each user is usually assigned a username and a password. The information system administrator can therefore easily track who accessed the system, when and what they did on the system. The information can help monitor or track people who are likely to violate the system security policies. So the system administrator will assign each of the staff their password and the username. So anything that he does in that system is going to be recorded, and therefore you can easily be able to control or monitor what people are doing in that particular system. In case of any violation, it will be flagged off quite easy. Yeah. Continuing to the next one, then maybe the second or the last one is what you call the firewall. A firewall is a device or a software system that filters the data or the information being exchanged through different networks. So by enforcing the access control policy of the host network. Yeah. So we want to filter the incoming traffic and the outgoing traffic. So to tell that if in case a certain IP address it is not recognized within our internal network, it should not be able to access our server, or it should not be able to access our network. So if this IP address is not known within our internal network, then it can be flagged off. Now, in case somebody wants to access a harmful, or somebody is using a different IP address in our internal network to access something outside the network, it can also be flagged off. Okay, so firewall can really play a very important role, especially if somebody is using our network to do some kind of hacking, or somebody is using an external network to access our internal server. So you can be able to control that easily by using what we call the firewall. Now the firewall can monitor and control access to and or from protected networks. I've already mentioned that people who do not have permission cannot access the network. So anybody who is maybe a remote user who has no permission cannot be able to access our network, our internal network. And those within cannot access sites outside the network restricted by the firewall. Maybe you can restrict some sites from being accessed, and therefore if somebody wants to access those sites, automatically he or she will be blocked from doing anything on that particular platform. So those are some of the ways you can be able to detect and prevent unauthorized access in your company. The last thing to do, but this one is mainly differs in different countries, but these are some of the laws that govern protection of information. Now, data should be kept securely against loss or exposure. So that is a law. Okay, every government, every company should adhere to that. That data should be kept securely against loss or exposure. Number 2 is that data and information should not be kept longer than necessary. If somebody dies, for example, that data is obsolete, so that you should just do what? You should just delete that information. Data and information should be accurate and updated. Do not provide misleading information about a person, or do not provide information that is not correct about an individual. So that is very important also to note in that space. Then data and information should be collected, used, and kept for specified lawful purposes. You should not collect data for your personal gain. Okay, you should have the lawful purposes of using somebody's data in that process. Okay, the owner of the data has the right to know what data is being held by a person or an organization having it. So the person whom you are connecting the data from has the right to know, what are you going to use my data for? Okay, and this, if he is not comfortable with that what you're going to use it for, he can be able to stop you from using it anytime, any day. So that is their right. Okay, and then we can also be able to say that data should not be transferred to another country without the owner's permission. You cannot take the country's data of a certain country and then transfer it to another country without really informing the owners what that data is going to be used and why is it going to be used for that reason. Then finally we talk about do not collect irrelevant and overlaying too much information for a purpose. So do not go beyond a certain limit to collect data that are not necessary as per whatever you want to achieve. So those are some of the laws govern the protection of information. You realize that all the companies, all the countries, they create their laws in this from this set of laws. So the wording might be different, but the ultimate goal is the same. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this video. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel so that when I create the next content, you'll be informed. Bye bye for now.